Welcome to the 2024 New Jersey International Film Festival Filmmaker Q&A series. Today we have two wonderful filmmakers here, one from Toronto, one from New York City, and we're going to be talking about their films for the next half hour or so. But before I introduce you to them, I just need to let you know that our 29th annual New Jersey International Film Festival will be taking place on weekends between May 31st and June 9th. The films will be available online on the day of their shows for 24 hours, and there's also in-person screenings for just about all of the movies. General admission is $15 per program. If you want to see everything, absolutely buy the all-access pass, which is $120. The in-person screenings will be taking place at our state-of-the-art facility, Voorhees Hall, room 105. It's a 250-seat lecture hall at Rutgers University, which has been designed for cinema. It has really good soundproofing, an excellent video projection system, cushy chairs, and a graded space. So the person in front of you is not going to block you with their huge head. So it's a really wonderful space, and I hope you can join us there. Today we have the maker of two wonderful films, and I just want to call up my screen here of my questions. On Saturday, June 8th, we're going to be screening Irina Arnaut's wonderful dark comedy called Gary, and that's going to be part of Shorts Program 2, and it'll be playing on Saturday, June 8th, online for 24 hours and at 5 p.m. in person. And Irina is going to be there with a number of the other filmmakers there to do a Q&A with the live audience. And Saul's film is playing the next day on Sunday, June 9th, as part of a program about music films. And his is one of the shorts that's playing before the feature film, Cowgirls and Synthesizers. His film, Saul's film, is called Musical Angels. And it'll also be playing with another New Jersey Film Festival alumnus. Saul's wonderful feature film won Best Feature back in 2017 at the New Jersey Film Festival. And his film Nocturne is wonderful. Find it online. You've got to see it. It's one of the most famous, one of my most favorite films that I've shown here at the university for the last 43 years I've been doing programming here. So that says a lot, Saul. So you should be very proud. Oh, I guess I should introduce you now. Saul Pincus from Toronto, Canada. His film Musical Angels is about a heartbroken violin maker who tests the healing power of music. And an image behind me is from his film. And Irina Arnaut's film, Gary, is, again, a dark comedy about two artists who are contract killers who try to pay back their student loans with doing these hits. So it's a really, really wonderful film. Both of them are wonderful. And welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I get to ask the standard boring question. Why did you guys make the films that you made? Ladies first. Irina?
Oh, okay. My background's in the art world, so I've made a lot of video art films, and I studied art for undergrad and grad school. And for a long time, I've wanted to get into filmmaking. And I've just had this idea for a long time. I think that genre of contract killers is fun, and obviously there are a lot of examples on it on film. And I always thought that marrying that genre to the art world would be fun. So the story is influenced by some, a lot of kind of real life interactions that I've had, obviously not with murderers, but and kind of real life experiences. So I thought I would put those into this and add this genre of contract killer in the background.
It's a lovely film, and I'm going to ask you about where it was shot and who these
Sure.
terrific actors are. But Saul, tell us about your film before we do that.
My film is basically just a short musical film based on a piece called Musical Angels, which itself is based on a motif by the Renaissance composer Josquin des Prez. And it basically came to me as a request by a local orchestra here in Toronto, Scarborough Philharmonic Orchestra, and Ron Royer, who composed it. And it came to me at a time when I had lost a number of friends and mentors, too many in a period of time, and I just thought it would be a good, a good project, a good way to kind of purge some emotions I was having at the time. And so it's really about renewal, about sadness and renewal. But it's something which is you know, I think intermittently joyful as well, because you're doing it through music, and that's a wonderful therapeutic thing.
When I watched your film, I thought of Francois Girard's The Red Violin, which is an amazing feature film about this historic violin that makes its way through the centuries. And obviously the films are quite different. But yours is magical realism nonetheless. I think that is it a ghost film? Is it a film where music is healing the two characters that are involved in the film? Are both characters real? I mean, these are questions I had. I mean, I think the actors, the two leads in both of your films are just really, really great. I think they're a little bit more developed in Irina's film because it's a little longer. But tell us about these people that you hired, I guess, or worked with on your projects. Irina, tell us about, oh, I love Maren Lord. You can't take your eyes off of her.
I
She
know.
plays Helen. You know, I think she's terrific.
Yeah.
Mark Junek also who plays John, her partner. Are they married?
In the film, I think that they're in a very committed relationship. I have no idea if they're
Yeah, because
married.
I saw a ring on Maren's wedding finger. I see everything. My wife says, "How did you see that?" Yeah, I
Yeah,
a little ring on her left on her left hand in the wedding ring area. So
sure. I don't even
maybe.
remember that. She wore a lot of her own jewelry. We worked with a costume designer, Misty Rose, and she, when we talked with Misty about the look for both of them, Marin in particular kind of already had it. A lot of the jewelry she's wearing her own wisdom tooth. And
Wow.
I remember when we were looking at her photos on her IMDb and zooming in, we're like, where's that? Who styled that photo? We need that wisdom tooth necklace. And it ended up being her own necklace. So um I don't remember, and they certainly weren't written as married, but they're definitely obviously very committed and very in
But
love.
how did you find these two actors? I mean,
I
did you?
worked with a casting director. I had this very, I think probably every pre-production phase is a nightmare, but looking for a casting director took a long time. I finally ended up connecting with someone who was getting into that from the acting world, and he was the one that brought Mark in. And
Hmm.
then Marin I found by sheer good fortune, because that role for me is really important. She's a very particular kind of um female lead. She has to be both really tender and really perversely kind of scary, and she has to get there in without trying to look like really hot. For me, kind of like hot girl who kills people is not really what I was going for. So I think an actor really has to let themselves be scary and not like hot while doing it. And I really prayed for the right person. We had a lot of really talented, incredible people audition, but nobody was quite right. And then through I'll try to make this very long story short, but basically through a very um lucky kind of connection of a friend, I told someone that I met very randomly, in on the street in Brooklyn about the film, and they were like, "Well, you can send me your script and I'll see if I know anybody, and this is an actor." And she ended up recommending Marin, and then I looked Marin up and I was like, "Oh, you're perfect," from her reel online. And then we asked her to audition and she did, and she was great. Yeah.
So, but you had to schlep these people all the way out to Montana.
Yeah, the two leads went out to Montana. The DP, David Marino, also lives in Brooklyn, so he went out to Montana. And the producer, who's actually now living in Montana and was previously living in Montana, had this kind of year-long stint in New York,
Mhm.
and so he came out to Montana as well.
Crazy, crazy. Saul,
Yeah.
tell us about your actors.
Well, I mean, the musical angel, I mean, the group, the Odin Quartet, is
Right,
behind you.
right.
They perform quite a bit. And actually, they're doing a tour next year all across the U.S. But But the actors in the film, basically the violin maker and her assistant, are played by Yuping Chow and Kevin Z, and they were basically their mother and son.
Mm.
So essentially, what I wanted to do is I wanted to get musicians to play it's very, very simple, these roles. Essentially, it requires just a huge amount of emotion, empathy, and the empathy for musical instruments, the empathy for that, I don't think it's easy to convey to an actor who, say, just goes from role to role necessarily, and certainly not as quick to do. And this was a very, very simple production.
Mm.
And the feature that I did, I had a large crew, in this case, this was just me and the production assistant. So, really, this was a very simple thing that I wanted to keep very simple, because I also wanted to enjoy it in a way that different from doing a feature, and different from, you just want to get down to the purity of it. So, I mean, in terms of being able to create a performance, well, I mean, these people bring with them, if they have that empathy, it's just a question of allowing them to unlock it
Mm.
and giving them that space in which to do it. And to some degree, because we were such a small production, um, I didn't really have didn't have the time to get into complex camera setups and things that I would have liked to have done. I didn't get into, I didn't have time for cranes. I didn't have time for dollies or anything like that. So I really just tried to simplify it. And I mean, one thing that I've always, really enjoyed was, I've always really enjoyed that scene in The Untouchables,
Mm.
in the feature where they're in the church. And by no means is this even close to that, but I've really enjoyed the pictorial nature of that scene and the use of lenses and this sort of thing. And so it's sort of to me, belongs much more in the school of that, much more sort of Stephen Byrne also, but also in terms of colors, getting back to Dean Tavoularis and Gordon Willis just a little bit in terms of a look that I was trying to go for in that particular case. But I mean, colors are a big deal in your film, Irina. Like, I mean, a big deal in terms of how they work. And so that's something I'd love to hear about as well from you.
Go for it. I love the transitions.
Yeah, that was a good segue. Um, for me, it was really abstract. I mean, which is funny to say considering that I kind of come from the art world.
Mm.
But that's why I really wanted to work with David, because he had a really strong sense of color for it. Obviously, you're just working with the backdrop of Montana, and so and actually we were really lucky because we were out there in July, and all the Montana crew was like, I can't believe it's still so green outside, because I guess by July it gets really more dry, and there's more wildfires, and there are more there's more of that kind of like yellow maybe color scheme in the landscape. But there was a lot of greenery, which we were really happy about. I think like that Montana landscape, that kind of classic, almost Western movie landscape, is so evocative. And for me, it wasn't necessarily even about the color that I was thinking of, but more about like that landscape and evoking the Western, and also, giving them, there was an evoking like a sense of emptiness, and like kind of vastness in their landscape. Because we had this, it would have certainly been a lot cheaper to shoot upstate, but there was this moment where I thought maybe I would shoot in upstate New York.
Mm.
And it's very, very beautiful up there. But you just don't get that kind of there's a lot of green, there's a lot of lushness, but there's also for me, there's also a sense that like someone can be hiding anywhere, behind a tree, or like, they could be really like the job that they're doing would be more risky or something for them, or they'd be risking or inviting being caught Whereas I feel like in this kind of landscape, seeing that they're like really alone, you know, as they're dragging the body out of the car gives them a sort of authority. So
I love.
unfortunately, I can't speak to the color as much. I wish David were here and he could talk about it, but
Mm.
certainly that landscape and its kind of like really visceral nature was something I just couldn't replicate, you know, upstate.
Yeah, I agree. I think the shot behind me now that I switched is from your film, Irina, and this is the opening shot from your movie, and I just love it reminded me of Citizen Kane when um, uh, Wilbur passes away, and then we get the point of view of the dead man. So the audience is the dead person, or at least the body in the trunk, which is really a really great touch. And I mean, did you really want to start the movie this way?
Yeah, I wanted to, well, this shot too, I feel like is such a, I really didn't want to compromise on it. You know, I think like every single murdering couple or murdering person shot, you know, every like, you know, the Goodfellas and
Yeah,
any
yeah,
like Tarantino film has the kind of trunk cut from like opening the trunk to like the interior shot. And
yeah.
I did want to quote that in the film because I think it's such a nod to like all of the history of all those shots.
Mm.
Um, but I did want to start out with them as artists, you know, and really establish the fact that this is what they do, that they're artists first, and the way that they can fund that life without, in their view, kind of compromising their time is through murder.
Our jury is made up a lot of students, and so they see themselves in these characters because of the outrageous student loans they have to pay off. So I think it
Totally.
resonated with them as well. And me as an artist, Saul as an artist also, it's like trying to make ends meet. Making your art is never very easy. So
Totally. And I've worked a lot of gigs. You know, I'm still freelance and
yeah.
um gig work is awful, you know, but at the same time, it's the only way that you can kind of eke out time for yourself. And so in a way, this is also, you know, as I've
Meant to
described
be
it, like
fun.
a
Yeah.
love letter to all the various gigs that I've done. You know, from being an artist assistant to, you know, gallery assistant to all kinds of things like freelance designer, freelance this, freelance that, you know. So they're just like decided to, you know, I guess, you know, these characters don't really have a moral compass and their gig is being murderers.
So,
Yeah,
but
well, I mean, go
So
ahead.
your film though is a kind of a gig, right? I mean, because
Yeah.
I noticed that it's copyrighted by the I wrote it down.
Yeah,
Scarborough Philharmonic Orchestra sponsored this
they
film.
commissioned me basically to do something, and I just wanted to do something that was not just a performance, but something that had a story, a bit of a
Right, and
story.
it seems like you really
So,
enjoyed the process, so you made it your own, you know. I really like that. And I think the cinematography in both of your films is amazing. The light streaming in that opening shot in your film, Saul, is just to die for. So
Where was that shot?
I guess I get to admit now where that came in. That is the only synthetic shot. Well, that's not true. There's another synthetic shot in the show as well. The movement into the violin, which we use
Mhm.
a few times, only because I needed it, not because I wanted to use it a few times, was completely. It's just a case against the green screen with the background and the table put in later, and the mood of it put in later, because again, restrictions.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and I did all that here. But in terms of the opening shot was originally another shot, and I was trying to clear the image,
Mhm.
and I couldn't get the artist to respond to my emails.
Hmm.
So uh, I decided to look into the possibility of doing something that's very possible these days, but kind of very iffy right now in terms of what people would think, is basically looking at the generative AI.
Mm.
And so what I did is I decided to create a background, but AI at this point still has a major issue, as it does with fingers. It has a major issue with violins and thin things. And so it creates these very bizarre things which would be wonderful if I was doing a different kind of film.
Mm.
But in this particular case, it was very weird. So what I did is I combined a number of images and then composited in a 3D space. So we were able to tilt down and obscure a number of issues that were in the generative AI realm, but then, you know, create.
Mm.
But yeah, that took, I mean, I guess I didn't do a lot of work except I spent about 3 hours doing different combinations of text entry to try to get an image that was close to what I was looking for in terms of mood and style
Mm.
and light. So I'm
Well,
sorry to disappoint you, but maybe I'm not disappointing you. I don't
no,
That
know.
I
shot
think,
did.
yeah,
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
Saul.
Go ahead, Irina. Go
Oh,
ahead.
that shot really also immediately evoked for me the red violin. You know, the when the original violin was made in that man's workshop, and he had to
I
use
think
his
it's
wife's blood to do the lacquer or whatever. But
Mm.
that kind of a workshop, I was like, oh, it's right
yeah,
away.
and that was the idea. And I was really kind of it also the tool that I was using also allows you to use an image as a reference. But in
Oh,
this particular case, it wasn't really referencing anything other than just a few colors.
Mm.
hmm.
I was able to keep it in the same world design wise,
Mhm.
color design wise, but not at all. The rest of it wasn't. I mean, these are very crude tools at this point in time. It's a very lovely image.
Mm.
I can't take credit for it, but I think but everything else in the film is something I guess I can't take credit for.
Mhm. But I think you can take credit for it because you conceived of it. So I think AI is a tool that artists are finding that they can use. I think there's some scary parts to AI, of course, but I think if
Yes.
you can make it help your project, I'm all for it. I think, the thing I really liked about Irina's films are all the mounts that she had on the car. I thought that probably wasn't that easy to
Yeah, those
accomplish,
rigs and the
where
process trailer.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that must have taken hours to kind of set up.
Yeah, well, what was amazing is that our crew was so good and so fast. I mean, the rigs that they set up within like, 30 minutes was amazing. The
Wow.
one kind of issue we had with that right away was that there was a lot of glare on the windshield. So that was what maybe took a minute to set up.
Mhm.
Um, but or to figure out or figure out how to avoid that.
Yeah.
But it does, I wish, I don't know how to share pictures on this, but otherwise I would share a picture of what it all looked like. It was really cool. They
Well,
did a really good job.
well, when you come to the in-person one, we can definitely share it with the audience for sure.
Sure, of course. Yeah, I'll prepare some photos for you
Yeah.
guys.
Do you guys have questions for each other?
My question was sort of built into some of the transition earlier about color, which I was also sort of relating to the the lighting in the tent as well, because to keep a scene like that visually interesting for
Mhm.
as long as it goes is difficult, and I thought that was handled very well. You
Oh,
know,
thank you. No, good. Yeah, the lighting in the tent, actually, that was the scene that took the longest to set up. I mean, our shooting was really, really smooth and
Mhm.
smooth to the production days were so smooth that I was like, am I missing something? Am I doing something wrong? Because I'm so used to, last minute things going wrong or having to kind of adjust and be flexible. But we had a lot of um our my shot lists were really long and we got everything done. But then with that lighting in the tent scene, that was really one where we were kind of risking losing the day.
Mhm.
Um, Eventually, obviously, it worked out, but then also the colorist did an incredible job in that scene when we went to do
Color
because
correct.
it definitely did look, different. I mean, it looked good, but it doesn't look as good. It didn't look as good before the colorist went in there and modified some stuff. She did an amazing job.
this is where I was going to just bring up the notion that with the time that we're living in versus even just, well, not 10 years ago, but more like 20 years ago or whatnot,
Mhm.
is we would have, a colorist would be important, but at that point we were still printing film,
Right.
and we would still deal with just RGB and various gradations of that. I mean, it was not nearly as painterly in the frame, or what's possible today is fantastic. And just having seen that transition, I can say it was great for me and this film as well, because when you shoot your own stuff as well, you know what you're going to you hope you know what you're going to do with it, and you don't have to work quite as hard on certain things when you shoot, because you know you can take care of that convincingly later.
in
Um,
post. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I'm shooting a film now in Super 8 and my iPhone, and I want to try to marry the analog with the digital. And I think you're right, because you get there, you don't really get what you want with the film. You still can screw around with it in post and come up with things. Oh, wow, I can do this. And the possibilities are endless. So I think trying to keep that in check is always, as well as Murphy's Law, is always the challenge for a filmmaker these days.
What
I
what
remember,
setting are you using to shoot on your iPhone?
I'm sorry?
What video setting are you using to shoot on your iPhone? Are you
Oh
doing like
gosh, I use
4K?
every type of setting you can imagine, from cinematic to just plain shooting, because I have an iPhone 13 Pro,
Mhm,
and you know, it's point and shoot a lot of the time, and then you just take what you have and you can, you know, play with it
mhm.
later on. So anyway, I wanted to share screen with our audience now, and I wanted to do this too, so that I changed the backgrounds as we move forward on this thing. And I'm going to share screen so you guys can see how you can buy tickets. And, you know, I've done literally hundreds of these Zooms, and I'm still kind of bumpy when when I'm setting these things up. So hopefully everybody can see this. This is our normal homepage, which is njfilmfest.com. And you both are hopefully coming. And if you do, Voorhees Hall is the place. Saul, you're familiar with it because we showed your film here. Irina, we are so close to the New Brunswick train station. You could just roll out, and a block away is the screening space, which
Great.
is Voorhees Hall. It's attached to the Zimmerli Art Museum, which is the University Art Museum. And it's a
Oh,
really
cool.
great space that I kind of had a hand in making sure that it would be filmmaker friendly. And most filmmakers like the way that their films look. I'd say most of
yeah,
them.
it's great. I can vouch for that. It's
And it's
wonderful.
actually, the projector is different now, and it's actually even better than when you were here, Saul. So I think when you get to the homepage, you want to click on current events, which just bounces you down to this slide, which is just a placeholder, because as we're a hybrid festival, we've partnered with Eventive, which is our streaming provider. So everything is on that website. So you absolutely must click the buy tickets link to get to our website over there. And that opens up a whole realm of possibilities. The 5 buttons at the top are really what you should push to explore our site. The welcome page has basic information, which is uh, you know, where the place is. You can click on the link to buy tickets, which will bounce you to another part of this website. Driving directions if you need to find where we are. If you want to use driving directions and you're going to be parking, use the university lots. They're free of charge, and you just have to register your car, and it takes a few seconds to do that. When you're done exploring that page, you click on schedule, which gives you a very vanilla overview of the festival, like analog version, I guess this would be, where you can see the entire schedule in textual form. And Irina is playing on Saturday, June 8th, and is the last film in that program. It's being screened with some really amazing films. Good Girl is a hysterical film by Jenny Kleiman. She's also from New York City. I think 2 people are coming from that film. Benjamin is coming all the way from Chino Hills, California, to show his lovely film Infinity, about Japanese American ballroom dancers and the internment that took place during the Second World War of Japanese Americans. Game Interrupted is a lovely film by a Turkish filmmaking student. I swear, you look at this film, you would never believe that this was a student. I mean, it's very slick, very professional. National Pride, also by Rod Ibsen. He's from Denmark. I don't think these guys are coming. They have not mentioned that they will be there, but I hope that you'll be there too. I know Irina is going to be there. Irina's going to be there. And then on Sunday, June 9th, Saul's movies playing with live feed and cowgirls and synthesizers. And I think all the filmmakers will be there for that program. When you're done scrolling through, you click on the tickets button, and that's the place where you'll buy tickets. And you just kind of scroll down and you'll find all the activities here. You go to Saturday, June 8th. and you can scroll through all the various films and you can see the images and what they look like. And then when you get to the last one, you'll of course see the same image that you saw behind me before. You click the pre-order button to buy tickets, and you will have to register if you've never bought a ticket before. But it's really easy. It takes a few seconds. And once you're in, you'll never have to do that again for our festival. You go back to the site. You want to get an overview of all the films that we're showing. You can do that by going through here and scrolling through the entire programs to see information on each film. Here's another nice shot of Marin, and then you can buy tickets directly from here too. And then you can always click on menu. I don't know why we moved all over here. You go to the welcome page again. You buy an all access pass here. If you want to come and see everything, do it because it'll save you half price. And we also have the lovely Marissa Nadler coming to do a concert. We're starting a concert series. Many of these will have a visual component. We did a pilot last fall with Tim Motzer, and I projected some images that I shot behind him. And we're going to be doing something like that with Jim Haynes, who's coming from California in October. Marissa's coming from Nashville to do this special show for us. So that should be really wonderful too. And that's basically it. If you have any need, you can always go right back to the welcome page for general information. I'm going to stop sharing. Say thanks to both of you for participating in this Q&A. And I look forward to seeing you guys at the screening, and there'll be the opportunity for the audience to interact with filmmakers there as well. Thank you so much, Irina. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.